Kwaku, here we are. Happy FAFO Friday.
FAFOing it up.
We took 1 week off and I missed it, so I'm glad we're back, So I hope you had a nice Memorial Day weekend. We are back this FAFO Friday, this FAFO weekend. I'm Dan Blumberg. You are, of course, are Kwaku and Ing. This is Future Round and Find Out. We grapple with emerging tech. We try to steer the future in the right direction. The newsletter's at futurearound.com. So this week we'll talk about a little, we've talked about cognitive offloading before. There are sort of two interesting things that happened this week. The American Federation of Teachers is calling for some pretty severe restrictions on the use of AI in classrooms. And then in law schools, UC Berkeley implemented a policy to basically prohibit all AI use by law students there. And it's interesting. But first, the Pope.
It's good. It's good that you start with the Pope. First with the Pope.
Good.
Go on.
First the Pope, So good Catholic that I am, of course, I read the Pope's 100-page encyclical immediately, as soon as it dropped. I assume you did as well.
One of us went to Catholic school, and one of us read what you read. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. One of the key passages, this has been excerpted a lot in a lot of places, he uses the word disarm. He says, I would like to employ the expression to disarm, which is close to my heart. Disarming AI means freeing it from the mentality of armed competition, which is not limited to military context, but is an economic and cognitive phenomenon. This entails a race for ever more powerful algorithms and larger data sets driven by the desire to secure geopolitical and commercial dominance. To disarm means discrediting the assumption that technical power automatically confers the right to govern.
That's a bar. That's a bar from the Pope. He's just out there dropping lines.
A lot of it is about being human, staying human, and the Pope writes about like being fallible, being human. That's part of what it means to be human, and these are not things to like get rid of. But yeah, there's a lot in here about back to this disarming. There's a lot in here about disarming, and he talks a lot actually about data and then owning one's own data and avoiding a system where these AI companies own your data. He talks about health data specifically, talks about how this could be a new form of colonialism where like your data is not really yours. It's extracted from you and you are then, under this system.
The person who is leading a major sect of Christianity is saying, protect your data. Is it me or is that wild?
Yes, it is wild. I think there's not a lot in this document that is new.
Yes,
but it's the fact that it's coming from the Vatican and all put together in one place. There's something about the heft of the document. I don't know. I'm curious, what if anything this changes, but I just feel like it elevates the conversation. We've already been talking about the sort of AI, backlash. And he also, I thought this was really interesting. He calls out developers specifically. He says, developers bear a particular ethical and spiritual responsibility for every design choice reflects a vision of humanity. Just as the creator of an artistic or literary work must consider the values it conveys, so developers are called to embed values in their projects with due seriousness, with transparency, responsibility toward affected communities, and careful attention to ensuring that what is being cultivated is a genuine good. So like specific call out for developers, being addressed directly by the Pope. I doubt that's happened before.
So there's an interesting thing there. Because as you're describing this, I'm like, who's the audience for this? You talked about the heft of this. There's an eloquence to his writing. And then I'm thinking, the people that he's speaking to, are they reading this? Even though he's calling out developers, it almost feels like he is alerting his audience. And there's something that we sort of take, when I say his audience, not the audience that typically listens to tech podcasts or, debates the effects of data privacy. And so when you're like, hey, a lot of this isn't new, right? Because we are hearing this stuff. There's a large swath of people that never talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think data sovereignty is something that that normies talk about. I don't even think
You
people
said
in tech talk about it all that much.
there are a lot of people who are just like, oh, it's just like a fad. It's like the internet. It'll go away. Or I've heard of ChatGPT, but I don't really understand why it's important. Or they're living in this space where it's just about like the fear version of it. It's like, well, the AIs are going to take over everything, and it's going to be like the movie Terminator. But he speaks about this with such specificity about the impacts of it, and I think that is really the power of this statement, where he's sort of like laying everything out for. How did you call it again? The normies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me, how do we make fun of like elitist tech people in the most elitist way possible?
Yeah.
Were there other quotes that spoke to you from this?
Yeah. So he talks about the alignment issue, right? He says, we cannot be satisfied with merely calling for the moralization of machines, the so-called alignment of AI with human values, without also having the courage to insist on a further condition, the possibility of openly discussing the ethical frameworks involved and subjecting them to shared standards of social justice. Otherwise, those who control AI will impose their own moral vision, which will become the invisible infrastructure of these systems. I mean, that's like a direct threat to going to church.
It is, but there's an irony there as well, and I know from all of your time in Catholic school and going to mass that this resonates with you. But if you replace certain words in there, instead of those who control AI to those who control the interpretation of the Bible can
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Can provide or drive their own perspective of things. And I don't know, let's choose a random topic like women's control over their own bodies or whether or not gay people have the right to get married. Picking just random things for people to discuss.
Just among your 95 theses here. Go on.
You know what I mean? Of a fifth of the population, can create their own agenda. There is definitely a level of the pot calling the kettle black here.
Yeah. Yes. The
or even
invisible infrastructure. Yeah.
Even the printing press and who can create print Bibles or the terminology of certain sections. But I do think there's a tremendous irony that an organization that has really capitalized on this approach to the control of information.
Control of the truth. Yeah.
Is calling out someone else.
Yeah.
So part of it might be sort of a siren call. Like, if this continues to happen, where's our place in this?
Mm-hmm.
If you were being really cynical, and that is what's being done here, as opposed to people of Earth, let's come together around this cause because it's really important. Part of it could be that. I would like to believe that he is really talking more about well-being. But there is an irony here that I don't know if other people are bringing this up, but I feel like we have to point this out.
Yeah. That's a really good call out. I guess I'll say that I'm happy that the Pope is talking about things like, even on the wonky point of like data sovereignty. I think he's thinking a lot about people who don't live in even the English speaking world, let's say. Right. Who are going to be,
good point,
using, or if not using, like subject to these systems. I think the point about colonialism, I mean, I imagine he may have read Karen Howe's book, Empire of AI. I had her on the show some time ago, actually before the book came out. And we talked about colonialism and the feeling that, particularly she reported out of Chile, like there was a data center being built there. And it's just the people that she spoke to there, like talked about how, forever their natural resources have been taken by the Spanish or colonial powers, and this sort of felt no different to them. Yeah, and then it's being sold back to them in the form of like, here's this intelligence in based on all of your data and the data center that we're running, where the land was cheap, and AI is not necessarily, doesn't always have the same safeguards in other languages as it does in English, because it's just not. It's like more of an afterthought. So I think having some of these ideas, come out of the Vatican is interesting, and I hope is helpful. I don't know how much it changes things, but I think broadly speaking, it's a positive thing for these ideas to be discussed more broadly.
The point that you just raised that really, just stopped me for a second there, and the irony being that a majority of my family and some of my wife's family as well are from countries that are not English-speaking countries natively. And the fact that the Pope is speaking to and for those people, that was a really great call out. That was not something that I originally thought about with this. And that is important because you're right. It's sort of like, and this is a really horrible analogy, but it's like if you've ever gone to a water park, right? And then there are these long slides, and there are the people going down the slides and splashing, right? And then if you're standing next to the pool or whatever, maybe you get splashed on, but you're not enjoying the ride. You're just getting wet.
Okay.
These other countries,
yeah,
they're the ones who are just getting wet. They're like, actually, I'm not even sure if I want to go on this ride.
So the American Federation of Teachers, the union, the biggest teachers union in the United States, is calling for this. They don't have the authority to just do this. They're calling to restrict screen use for anyone grade 3 and under. They're calling for no student-facing artificial intelligence, such as digital tutors in elementary schools. That would include things like Conmigo. We've talked about Khan Academy on here before. And no companion chatbots, including any AI-based program that simulates human relationships for students under age 16. So that's one thing that they called for this week. And then separately, but at UC Berkeley Law School, they put in a new policy starting this summer for the lawyers in training there, that they are not allowed to use, basically not allowed to use AI at all. They gave a bunch of examples of things that would be breaking the rules. So all these would break a rule. Asking an AI to brainstorm a paper topic is prohibited under conceptualizing. Asking an AI to propose an organizational structure for a paper, that's prohibited outlining. Asking an AI to compose a paragraph summarizing a legal rule, that's prohibited drafting. Asking AI tools to identify repetitive passages, so like editing, revising is like asking AI to polish a paper by correcting grammatical mistakes, also somewhat surprisingly, also banned. Asking AI to generate an exam outline, not okay. Asking AI to translate a paper written in another language, also prohibited. And one of the professors who is involved here says, our goal is to make sure that students develop the skills consistent with being a good lawyer. I'm nervous about the policy. I'm not sure it's going to work. I also know it's not possible to just ignore the problem. And they've been seeing that, people have been submitting papers, drafts, briefs where they don't actually understand the work that they're submitting, or that's the concern anyway.
But I bet it's hyper efficient for them to get that work done,
It's hyper efficient to like submit the assignment, but if your goal of being at law school is to become a lawyer and you don't learn the skills of becoming a lawyer, like that's the it's not very efficient at that if you graduate without that, right?
Yeah. So, all right, there's so much here. I think that so there's a school I do some work for here in San Diego, and I've seen a lot of tech backlash from parents. And it's not even like below the grade 3. It's like 6th grade parents that are like, hey, we're not sure if we want our kids to use iPads, or if they are using it, can you basically turn it off at night for us where they can't access anything? So there's that. I mean, to what you read, I kind of agree with it. K through 2, do kids need to be on iPads? No, I don't think so. And this is my experience as a teacher, like even a laptop, like 3rd grade in a lot of schools that I've worked in, 3rd grade was the grade that we would start to teach typing, because at that point you're developing the motor skills in order to be able to do it, but we wouldn't do it before then. So that part to me makes sense. There's also a piece here that I think is interesting. It's like the quiet part out loud. Do you remember the pandemic? Remember when we did that thing?
I remember my kids used screens a lot during the pandemic. Yeah. And I had not even a kindergartner then. Honestly, my wife and I were talking about the screen use in our house, which today is way higher than we would like. And she said the same thing to me, basically. Remember the pandemic? Like, that's when it started in our house. Like, that's when it got really bad.
It feels like some of this is a bit of the pendulum swing from we have to teach kids. This is the only way we can teach kids. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in front of screens because that's how we connect them to teachers. So there's that part of it. There's a huge pendulum swing, and I agree with it. The other part about the AI part is really interesting because prior to all of this, especially the public schools, we were in this testing economy. And so we need to train you for the test. All this started in 2000 with Bush and No
Right.
Child Left Behind. And if you're doing this well on the test, this is a really great forecast of your future. And you need to do this well on the test state academic test starting in third grade to determine what schools you're going to get into. But more importantly, it determined the amount of funding that your school received. If you had a certain number of kids who didn't score well enough, they would cut your funding, and then eventually your school would close and it would be replaced by a different school. So there's a huge emphasis on testing. And there was a move away from the human aspect, the building of things. It was more, how does all of this connect to testing, right? And so in the Randy Weingarten statement, she had this piece in there about focusing on human ability and well-being. Human ability and well-being has nothing to do with testing. That is not the goal of that. It's really more memorization and a really easy way to quantify what people have learned. But now we're moving towards that. And I think it's great. I think that that's wonderful. But are we abandoning what is going to prepare kids for the future that they're moving into? And this is me specifically asking about the chatbot piece, with the idea of dealing with AI. Do I think
Right.
elementary school kids should be interacting with chatbots regularly? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think they should be interacting with each other, and they should be interacting with their teachers. But there is an inconsistency here for me, and I think there's something else that's. Yes, I agree that there's a lot of AI, and we should be protecting kids from it. But it just feels like the pendulum shift. There's something else happening.
It seems like in both of these cases, I mean, one actually is now the policy at UC Berkeley Law School. Questionable how they enforce that. Even the professor who was very involved.
How?
But even in both of these cases, like, I feel like a blanket ban, leaving aside the kids third grade and under, but like, I don't know that we make progress if people don't use these tools at all, even from a young age. You open up Google and you're using an AI, like, you can ban AI chatbots in schools, and then someone goes to Google and it's like, oh, I'm now asking follow-up questions of this, like, digital deity that's, gonna tell me
digital deity,
whatever.
Ooh, look at you.
Yeah,
okay.
Look at that.
That's a bar.
A little callback,
I need to highlight it. I need to let you know that was good.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, I mean, the bigger point of all this is, and Ethan Mollick wrote a really nice piece about this, related to like being and staying human, and not falling into what he talked about, cognitive surrender, not even just cognitive offloading. And this is how he closes his piece. He said, Ethan Mollick at Wharton, like well-known like AI researcher. The point isn't to avoid AI, but to be intentional about it by making a conscious choice about AI use rather than reflexive dependence or reflexive avoidance. We're at the point where defaults are being set for what kind of work to give to AI by the AI companies designing for frictionless use, by employers deciding what counts as, quote, using AI well, and by people teaching the ever-shifting concept of AI literacy. A lot of this is happening without, ironically, any real planning or consideration, and I suspect it'll be hard to reverse these defaults once a generation of workers and students has built habits around them. The most important thing we can do is keep asking what to hand over and what to keep for ourselves, and not to expect anyone, including the AI, to answer this for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, what, be deliberate. This actually echoes kind of what the Pope is saying, like, to be really thoughtful about how we're designing these systems. There's a bunch of things in the encyclical about, that technology is not neutral. Like, is a Google AI search going to point me to a different product, because of whatever bias?
Would a Google AI give a non-biased answer on the effects of data centers?
Right. I don't know.
If you want people to be okay with it, and you need to keep building it because we keep injecting AI into all of these things, Is it going to give you an honest answer, or is it going to give you varying opinions? It may not. I don't know. That's up to Google. And to your point, you asked the question of the critical thinking skills, specifically with being a lawyer, but just in general about the educational process. My question is, if we keep creating these super efficient pathways, do we have jobs or have the need for critical thinking skills? Or do we just become people on a proverbial assembly line where we dip in the ounce of humanity that's needed for someone to feel that something's authentic?
Or that something has been authorized by a human, right? Like that's, I
Right.
think there's a future where a lot of the role is like, we can't say that AI did this, but if like Kwaku signs off on it, then like a
Right.
human did.
Or, okay, yeah. Or like, like when you buy a pair of boots and it's like, this was handmade, as opposed to stitched by a machine. Oh, this was handmade. These boots, they were made by human hands.
Yeah.
This was human thought of.
All right. All right. Past, present, or future. You got something. What do you got?
Past, present, or future jobs that require independent and critical thinking. Where is that trending?
I want to say it's trending in like it's bifurcating. Like on the one hand, I think there are going to be a lot of jobs that, where you're just kind of babysitting an AI.
Is that critical thinking?
Yeah, I mean,
you're
it depends.
babysitting an AI.
It should be. That's probably why you're there. Otherwise, the AI can babysit another AI, right?
Or is that like a human safeguard? You were referencing the idea of editing something, critical thinking, the idea of actually writing something, And to your point, that job that you talked about, I don't know where I read this or heard this, but it was talking about one of the jobs that is highest paying and most popular for new college graduates. Like, these are the jobs that they want. It is essentially that. It is someone who is a developer who is essentially babysitting or overseeing AI systems.
I think babysitting is actually, I think I used the wrong verb. I think there will be some jobs where you are babysitting it. Like, imagine like a human driver in a self-driving car that's not yet at full autonomy.
Exactly.
So I think that would, yeah, I think those jobs and like, by the way, like if you get stuck in a Waymo, there's a human you can phone somewhere in the Philippines or someplace that can like help you get unstuck. There's also, on the super high agency side of things, I would say orchestrating, AI, and that's a very high critical thinking job. How can I deploy these agents? And in particular, like right now, as AI costs are actually becoming real, I think, not sending agents down unnecessary rabbit holes and like running costs up. So I think that actually is going to be definitely a job of the future, is like, how do we get the most out of these agents? How do we do it in a cost effective way? How do we build a harness that routes easy for AI jobs to low cost models and others to the most frontier models? And I think, those people that know how to get the most out of AI, and this kind of relates to like the perhaps to the Berkeley law students, like if they're not using it, maybe they're using it in other parts of their lives, but like, I think those jobs where you are assigning AI to go do legal research or other things, like those are actually skills that people ought to be building. So I think there's going to be a mix to your question of like, are these high critical thinking jobs, like, are there going to be more or less of them? I think there's going to be a mix of like these not interesting jobs and then these incredibly high agency, high leverage jobs. If your job is to manage, 100 AI agents and the costs that those can run up, and there've been a bunch of interesting stories the past couple of weeks of like crazy amounts of money that companies are spending like per employee, because they're all still, though this is ending, like in token maxing land. But I think those jobs will be highly compensated if you're able to orchestrate a lot of AI agents. And then on the other hand, there'll be either jobs will be eliminated by AI, or you'll have people who are, human in the loop, but like the human is kind of just minding it, like not doing a lot.
So I'm gonna push you. I mean, because that's a really great spectrum of these jobs that you've described, do you think 15 years, I'm being really specific with the 15 years, because with 15, it's just far enough beyond our imagination to imagine 15 years from now. Do you think 15 years from now, there will be more orchestration jobs or more minding or babysitting jobs?
I think almost by definition, there have to be more in minding jobs, only because like an orchestra only has one conductor, but almost just like the math of it, I think says there'll be more other jobs. I also wonder, I mean, I think that may relate to like the development in 15 years of like physical AI. I can imagine a lot of jobs where I reference to like the human driver in the self-driving-ish car. Like I can imagine like if in 15 years we're deploying humanoid and other kinds of robots here, there, and everywhere, like there may be a bunch of jobs where your job is to like make sure that like, to like, if you saw like the footage of the humanoid robots that ran the marathon, right?
Yeah.
And like when they would fall down, like a bunch of humans would swarm and like pick it back up again
and pick them up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those may have been highly trained roboticists who also happen to have the job
But who
of
were
like pick it up when it falls.
But the robot's been built, so they're just minding it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to demean it too much. They're probably doing a lot.
No,
more minding.
I'm not demeaning it. I'm being really honest, and it's so all of this tying back to the education discussion. What are we preparing kids for? Are we preparing them to mind things? Are we preparing them to build things? Are we preparing them to understand how to interact with nature and people? Or is it a combination of all three?
Yeah.
All right, sir.
All right. We'll leave it on that
question mark.
Poignant note. Yes.
You stay classy, San Diego?
Go Knicks.
Go Knicks. Lovely. All right. I'll see you next week.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, sir.
This is Future Round and Find Out. And if you like this episode, please tell a friend about it. Share it with a friend. That's how podcasts grow. And you can check out futureround.com and get the newsletter next week.
Yes, sir. You've been FAFO'd.